So, hi. Wow, this is an awesome crowd. I wasn't expecting half of this, but I think the marketing really worked. This is super cool. Thank you so much for being here. So, what are we going to discuss today? Must have game design skills that no one really talks about. See, I, I have been in the industry for, let's say, like 11, 12 years. I've interviewed a lot of guys, like 200 plus people, all game design, of course. And I've actually seen there have been certain skills, not hard skills I'm talking about soft skills over here, that a lot of new, fresh game designers lack. But before going into any of those, can I have a quick show of hands? How many of you are really budding game designers? Wow. And anyone 1 year, 2 year, 3 year into the industry as a game designer? Perfect. That's absolutely amazing. So this talk is definitely curated for you. If you are a seasoned game designer, I would probably say if you're watching this video from YouTube or something, directly skip it to the 10th, 15th minutes or so. But you will still be having a lot to learn over there. Third, I've mentioned that this is about design skill that no one talks about. This is not a clickbait, except for the first slide. Everyone knows what the first slide is, but I couldn't help myself but add it over there because it is so important. I only have 27 more minutes left. There's so much to talk about, so let's just get right into it. This is me, Jikuben, lead game designer of Nukebox Studios. Rahul have given an amazing introduction about me. All my games have collectively got more than 200, 250 million downloads. SpongeBob has been Game of the Year for 2020. It was also the best casual game in 12 countries, including US. Food Truck Chef has also been like Google Play's best of 2017. My games have got more than 4 editors' choice. I mean, the whole reason of showing this is not showing off, but just to let you know that I'm a decent game designer, and there would really be some value in whatever I'm saying. Even though you might think that, what is this guy saying? There is definitely value in it. So, starting number 1, communication. I don't know whether how many of your mentors have told this to you, but this is something Rahul keeps telling everybody in Gamer to Maker. If you're a game designer, come on, the first thing that you should know is communication. And this is also, remember I told about the first slide being the disclaimer against the title. I know everyone talks about this, but imagine there are 2 types of game designers that I have seen personally. Number 1, they don't even talk. I mean, they're afraid of talking. They're more like, I won't be bad at communication if I don't communicate at all. Those sort of people. Number 1, if you are that kind of a person, you should definitely find a buddy whom you can talk to. And in case if you don't have that guy, this was something my brother told me. Do talk to yourself. I mean, not in public, of course. Just talk to yourself in your mind. I used to be like this. When I was traveling, I was like, oh, that was a good tree. Oh, that is a good tree. Oh, green leaves. Oh, leaves are falling. So much smoke coming. I used to talk like this to me. I'm not talking about the accent over here. Accents are perfectly fine. But this was my accent back then. I used to talk to myself, and I just got better. And number 2 is this kind of people. They talk a lot. They talk a lot. After 5, 10 minutes of talking, and I'm like, dude, what's the point here? I didn't understand. Can you just take me through it again? And they'll take another 5 minutes to explain it. Both are bad. And we will immediately come to know that during interviews. There's a reason why we ask you, hey, why don't you introduce yourself? And this is that. We also see many other things in that particular thing, but it's an immediate rejection if you do that. We will definitely be talking to you for that 40, 45 minutes of the entire interview time, but in my mind, you're out. Got it? So it's that important when it comes to communication. That's the only reason why I have it over here. Number 2, collaboration. As game designers, most of our time is spent with other members of our team. People say, if you are sitting in front of your desk for more than an hour, then you're probably doing game design wrong. You will have to talk to others. An example would be that, when I am sitting in front of my desk, suddenly there'll be, a QA guy calling me, and I would be like, okay, Hi, Jiku, can you just come in? I'll go over there. I'll see, hey, there's a bug over here. Can you just check if this is really a bug or a feature? And then I would just be checking it out. And suddenly, developers will be calling, hey, I have a doubt in one particular feature that you onboarded. So I'll go over there. When I sit in, I'll be like, okay, the art team was making something. I just probably go over there and check. So I'll go to the art team and I'll check what they are doing. We'll give some corrections, we'll give some appreciations, and then we'll come back. And then you will all of a sudden find some bugs. And you will again go to the QA. So this keeps happening. You are the forefront of collaboration. And if you are that, I keep getting this a lot. Game designers are introverts. Because usually, like more than 50% of the time, we will have our own corner in our room where our entire gaming system setups are done. We'll be there playing games all night long. Our communication with the rest of the world are absolutely minimal. So if you are that kind of a person, I mean, it won't be a problem for the first 1, 2, 3 years of your career, but you definitely have to come out of it. If you are still that introvert who doesn't want to like talk or collaborate with others, boom, you are going to have a tough time being a game designer. So how are you going to, be better at collaboration? If you don't really want to talk to them, but just go over there and ask for help, ask for feedbacks. That way you can talk to them and collaborate with them much better. I am rushing, I know, but there's no other way. Number 3, task management. See, this is very funny because Darth Vader over here can actually be, the product director, the producer, or it could also be the lead game designer. See, in India, every designer, I mean, if you are working in India and you only have one game to work and you only have one task at any given point in time, consider yourself very, very lucky. We basically work on multiple games at the same time, and there will be at least 2 tasks that you have to do at any moment in time for each game that you're working. So task management becomes very important. You will have to prioritize your tasks. And when you do all those tasks, suddenly, lead game designer comes and says, hey, I know you've been working on this task for a very long time, but, priorities changed. We will have to now work on something else. But, FYI, you don't have a lot more time. So now you're like absolutely mind-fucked. And you're like, oh, dude, what? Now I don't get extra amount of time? See, this is not happening every single time, but this can definitely happen. So you should be knowing how to prioritize your task. And if you're not sure about it, make sure you ask your leads for help so that they can prioritize the task for you rather than you just breaking down. Because I've seen that quite a lot. Game design has a lot of pressure and you have to manage it very well. If you know task managing properly, you will definitely come through it. 4, solution mindset. Wise men, they usually say this: you have to fall in love with the solution and not with the problem. I think I said it wrong. You have to fall in love with the problem and not with the solution. Why do they say that? Because what I have seen is all these interns, juniors into game designing, whenever they are faced with some problem, there will be one immediate solution that comes to their mind. And they feel that that is the right solution. They don't consider any other solutions. And they are so rigid about that. They are not flexible about changing that solution. That is when you are falling in love with the solution. But instead, if you fall in love with the problem, you will be so much inclined to find a lot of solutions for that particular problem. You will find tons of solutions for that problem, and ultimately, you will pick the easiest solution. If you don't know there are like 5 solutions for this problem, you won't be able to pick one easiest solution from it. I will always go for easiest solution first, because in case if it didn't work out, most of the case it won't, you can easily backtrack and find out where did you go wrong. If it's a complicated solutions and it didn't work out, it's absolutely horrible to go back and find out where it really lost you. That solution mindset. And then comes ownership. I used to tell my people, hey, dude, take ownership of what you're doing, your feature, your product. And guys would be like, all interns, juniors, they'll be like, yeah, Jiku, I've been taking ownership, I'm a good owner. I would really want to, ask anyone, quick, anybody, do you guys, anyone knows what ownership really mean? Okay, oh, not you, you are my product director. So basically, see, think of it as, you own a pet. You have a pet with you. And the pet is sick. That's a problem. You take the pet to a vet. The vet will give you some medicines, would probably give you some diet plans. You give the medicine to your pet, and then you will possibly, you'll check, okay, what's happening to that? Is it getting better? Oh, it pooped. Oh, it's puked. More problems. So you keep checking, and then you keep changing your plans accordingly without no one asking, because that's your pet. That's exactly what we want with your features. If you're a level designer who is doing level designs, you basically have to probably, depend on the size of your target audience. You have to probably go the next day and see if my level design really worked. How many people are finding difficulties in my levels? Oh, people are losing a lot. Right? So you basically have to find that out without the lead game designer asking for you every single time, hey, what happened to your levels? Is our revenues dropping? Is our retentions increasing? You have to take ownership of your product and let the lead game designer or your design manager know that, hey buddy, there's a problem. We need to address it. This is very important. You will be doing this on a very day-to-day basis, so keep that also in mind. Then comes critical thinking. Oh my God. So this is a very complicated, so it's not like so complicated, but you really need to understand what critical thinking really means. And you also have to make sure that you're not overthinking stuff, you are actually thinking critically. So there's a difference between both. On simpler terms, overthinking is something that you've been thinking a lot, but you're not finding answers to it. That's probably overthinking. But critical thinking is just like how an attorney, attorneys at courts, they basically evaluate all the facts and all the clues that he has in front of them, and then they come up with their own hypothesis of solving it. I'll quickly tell you one example so that you can understand this better in a game design perspective. Around like 2016, 17, one of my games, suddenly, we launched an update and suddenly our revenue went down. And we were like, what just happened? So the immediate thinking would be something that we have done in the feature for that particular update would have messed up. So we checked out everything, there was no issues at all. And then, since it's revenue, it could be ad or it could be IAPs. Is there a problem over there? No problem over there as well. Okay, then are players getting so many gems or premium currencies? No problem over there as well. We spent 7 days, company has been losing money over and over. We couldn't find out why was it actually happening. And then suddenly, one of the game designers, back then he was our senior game designer, he was like, hey, you know what, there was one new guy who joined our entire team. He was not into game design, but there was an intern who joined. Why don't I just go and talk to him? He went in, he talked to him, but instead of asking, hey, what, did you make any changes recently? I mean, if he had asked that, he would probably say no, because out of panic and all those stuffs. But he sat with him and he talked to him, asked him, hey, awesome, shake hands and stuff. What were you guys doing? I would love to know what all you learned in this last 1 week. And he took him through all these stuffs, and suddenly he was like, wait, did you make this change in production environment or sandbox environment? So basically, we have something called as a remote config, where you can make changes from the back end, and it immediately reflects on the production or sandbox environment, right? He was like, oh, this is production environment. You are in production. Okay, what did you change in production environment? And there was something called as dynamic difficulty, which none of us knew about it, because that was done 2 years back by some other game designers. He kept the values over there, and no one has touched it, ever. So dynamic difficulty is something, we will be balancing stuff, and the game itself chooses, game understands the skill of the player and increases or decreases the difficulty dynamically, so that every player gets a fair gameplay experience, right? He changed the value over there, because of which all our levels have been becoming super easy. And everybody has just been like cruising through, no IAP monetization happening. Our retention went down after a while because everything was so easy. People were becoming so bored of the game, they left. And we immediately changed it. You see, most of the times, the reason of why the problem is happening might not be right in front of you. You will have to think a lot and lot and lot. If that guy hadn't thought about this, probably the game would have been dead. Company would have lost so much of money. That's how game design entirely works. One small mistake from anybody of you can cause a ripple effect and could probably shut down the studio. But be careful, okay, and think critically. That's the point over here. So first part of our presentation is more or less over. See, you won't be getting a lot of time to ask questions to me, but I'll be around. Feel free to come over and ask. Also, there's this talk that I'm doing. It's a very, very quick and short one. There's a complete version of this 1.5 hour long version available in Gamer to Maker archives. So in case if anybody is interested, just approach me or Rahul over here. He's the right guy to guide you. Now, coming to the second part. This is where things get a little bit, complicated stuff, but very interesting as well. This is objection handling. What do I mean by that? As a game designer, two things can happen to you when it comes to objection handling. People would say no to you, or you will have to say no to people. When you are new to the industry, I mean, you'll be having amazing ideas that you think are amazing. I'm not saying, no, I'm not objecting it. But most of the times, they would not be the best possible way of doing it. And when you you say your idea to your lead game designer, or maybe your mentor, or maybe your friends, they would say, bakwas idea, yaar. Like, no, it doesn't work, nope. What I've seen is, a lot of people take this so personally. Don't. You should actually read the last line over here. The typical success rate of yes or no, like 25% only, like you had 4 ideas and only one of those ideas will be like said yes to, especially when you are new to the industry. So don't take this personally. You will not be knowing a lot of stuff, how things work and stuff. And if someone says no to you, you always ask, why? Right? It shouldn't be like, why in a very horrendous way, but okay, I completely respect your views, but may I know why wouldn't that work? I'll be so happy to tell you guys that, what you have told is for X target audience, but we have Y target audience. Their interests are different. Maybe it's about the engine that we are using. Maybe it's about the impact. Maybe it's about the reach. Maybe it's about the confidence of pulling it off. There are so many reasons why your ideas might not work. Ask why. So you understand that, okay, that's why it didn't work. So what do? You will find solutions for the problem that I just told you. So you basically convert your no's to a yes. Then I'm like, I didn't think about that. Maybe we could do that. You always have to convert your no's to a yes. That's the first probably 2 years of your career. And beyond that, it'll be like, you will have to say no to a lot of other people. Because when you're onboarding, your feature or a product or whatever you're doing to the rest of the team, especially if you're in a smaller studio, most of the time what happens is the developers or the artist would be like, you know what, there's a better way of doing this. Not like this, but like that. So you will have to probably say, you cannot really works. So I often tell them that that's a brilliant idea. Because even though that's a stupid idea, I just don't want. I'm not saying that all my teammates' ideas are stupid. They are really good. So I always tell them that hey, that's a brilliant idea. We should consider that as an improvement. That's a cheat code that I usually use if I don't have any particular reasoning as to say why that would fail. I usually say this. That's brilliant. And we should consider that as an improvement. Because it's an improvement, and because you are the person who's controlling which improvement should be taken when as a game designer, you always have control of that particular idea being implemented in the game or not. And if it's really good, you can still say this. If it's really good, you can still say this. And then you can pick that improvement, prioritize that, and then do it. So you basically have to find and figure out your own ways of saying no to your teammates as well. I had an amazing guy who always he was a developer. He always comes to me, he will talk to me, he'll give some sort of an idea. I would try to, he would say, most of my times are filled, so I would genuinely tell him that, hey, I am occupied, I will come back to you later. This is just to understand whether he is driven or not. Is he really passionate about having his idea implemented? And that guy would usually stay back like 6:30, 7 o'clock at night. When I'm coming out of the meeting room, he'll be like, hey, Jiko, shall we discuss about that idea? Wow. Yes, come on, let's do this. Right? My God, so much to talk about. So conflict management. This is so cool. This is so crazy. You are a game designer, and you will be dealing with a lot of conflicts in your life. What do you mean by that? Most likely, your conflicts would be with the product director. or the producer. Because you are the game designer, you would actually know your players, because you are the one who is so close to your players. But your product director or your project manager, they are interested more about the KPIs and the ROIs, how the return of investments, how much money are they getting it back for the effort that they are putting it in. Right? They are interested in that most of the time. And the timelines, how quick can we finish it? So you will have a lot of conflicts with your team members, especially these two guys. So what do you have to do? You cannot just leave out of the room with the conflict running, right? You have to solve it in that room itself. Don't just walk out. I've seen that many times. Game designers, including me, have walked out of the room. I was like, fuck it, you do whatever you want to. Bad. Don't do that. I did that when I was 3 years into the industry. I was absolutely believing that this is the idea that's going to work and stuff, so don't do that. You care, you communicate, you listen what they are saying, and you find a win-win solution so that both are happy. The real skill that comes over here is how much of win-win are you really compromising on? Is it 50-50? Or is it 60-40? Or is it 90-10? That's the real skill. It might also be 40-60, you lose. You'll be creating a feature that you are not confident about. That is one major skill that you need to master. Then comes the last part of our talk, systems thinking versus design thinking. What does this mean? I just did a Google search and Google gave me this result. I had absolutely no clue about it, so I just went to the image search and I found this. So imagine systems thinking. Imagine that entire blue area is a problem that you're facing. One problem can actually be broken down into different nodes or parts. And each of those parts will actually be connected together. They will have a relationship within each other. When you're coming up with a solution, you will have to find solutions such that all the parts of this problem are covered in that particular solution. Sometimes you might be having a brilliant idea. That's also the reason why we should be having a lot of solutions, so that you can evaluate all of this, so that all of these nodes are connected. Sometimes your solution might not find a real solution for that particular node. So in that particular way, your problems is not getting solved completely. So that is system thinking. You basically have to think critically, right? The critical thinking part comes in over here as well. You have to understand the relationship between all these nodes and then find solutions such that your solution solves problems completely, holistically, from the root level. That is systems thinking. Then we go into design thinking. Again, Google gave me like an amazing, definition that I had no clue about. So this is some tip. The reason why I'm saying this is because I usually give this tip to my students. Whenever you go through this, like a definition that you don't really understand, just strike out the things that you don't really understand. And then you read it again. So it basically says it's a set of procedures used to understand how people react when engaged with design problems. Someone is going through your feature, and they have a design problem, and we just see how they are reacting to it. Simple. That's design thinking. But there are different ways of doing this, or I would say different parts of doing this. You basically have to empathize with them. What do I mean by that? You put yourself in the shoes of that particular guy. If he is like, a 40-year-old woman who's a divorcee but so much into social media and stuff, you have to think like her. You have to put yourself into that shoes. When you are playing your levels, that's made for her. Just levels are just an example, but anything that you are doing, you have to empathize with them. You have to feel that you are them. You connect with them. And then you go through that. This is one of the curves that the game designers usually have, because when we balance levels, what happens is we become a lot of professional. We are pro in the levels that we make. Often cases, we make those levels so hard and challenging for us, forgetting that our end users would be absolutely new to those levels. And when they played, they don't win at all. So you have to put yourself in their shoes and then play. You empathize with them. And then you define what are the problems that they are facing. And then you find solutions for it. You ideate. That's how you find solutions for it. And then you make prototypes quickly. Like I'm not talking about game prototypes and stuff. Feature prototypes. Maybe in Figma or maybe in some other ways. You give it to them and ask them to play again. Is it sorted? You test it, right? And if it is sorted, well, good enough. Let's go and make this. These two are two different skills, but the actual skill The actual skill is putting the systems thinking into design thinking. How can you put systems thinking into design thinking? You basically have to go back to your, you know how systems thinking worked, right? Every problem, like now I'll just move on to this, empathizing. How do you put in systems thinking into empathizing? How do you put in systems thinking into defining? How do you put it into ideating? You have to consider all of this into a system thinking perspective. Only then, and only then, telling you, my guys, you will become a great, great game designer. Thank you so much. That's all I have. We have like 4 more minutes left. Let me know in case if you have any questions. Oh, by the way, yes. Don't be afraid. Yes, please.
Hi, my name is Nalin Savara, and my question is that firstly, my compliments. I totally loved the way you explained it, especially about conflict resolution, and after that, the systems thinking versus design thinking. So you said that you have to put the systems thinking into the design thinking. That means that when you empathize, when you put yourself in the other person's shoes and all, then at each of those points, you have to think what is the systemic issues and
Yes.
factors, how they interconnect that the other person faces.
Exactly.
That you don't just
Exactly.
have to blindly empathize that now he's feeling scared, now he's feeling happy, this is what she wants.
Yes.
But you have to put each of those systems thinking, each of those design thinking hats of empathy, etc. And then take a systemic view of the systemic factors that the other person sees when you are in his shoes.
Exactly, exactly. So all of these guys will be having their own problems as to why is she failing in that particular level. If level design is an example that we are taking over, why is he failing over there? There could be many reasons for it. And you basically have to understand what are this problem. And if she's just new to mobile gaming as a whole, then you basically have to think, okay, being new to the game design, gaming altogether has its own problem. So one problem has different subset to it. So then you understand all those subsets and then find a solution. Maybe your level, let's say you made that level very easy. That might not be the problem that she's facing. Maybe the level is not at all challenging for her. That's the problem that she was facing. So you have to identify what is the real problem by thinking systemically into your empathizing and defining and prototyping and all those phases so that you find the right answer to it. Yes, sir, you're absolutely right.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you so much. Really, really, really appreciate it.
Thank you. I think this will be our last question. So we only have like 1.5 minutes left.
Yeah, when you talked about saying no to people, and I remember you talked about when you can't think of a reason of why it's wrong
Yeah.
or like bad, you just tell them like great idea, but like
Yes.
we have other problems.
Yes.
So like if you can't think of the reason, like
Yeah.
does it just mean that maybe you haven't understood the idea completely, or it was like
Could be, or it could also be your gut feel as a game designer and as a gamer.
the instincts?
The
Okay.
instincts, basically, right? This, I'll tell you, this helps us a lot, more than what you would even imagine. But it wouldn't really help you when you're starting into the industry. But 5-10 years into the industry, you kind of know what works and what doesn't work. Based on that, you can take a decision, and then you can validate whether it is right or not with data or with players, right? So it's mostly that.
Okay.
Sometimes you might be wrong as well.
Right. Right.
You could be wrong.
That's definitely very possible.
Yes.
Yeah, and one more thing is like I feel like game designers should be a lot more specific. Like you shouldn't use words like good, bad because it's very vague terms. Yeah, so like or even interesting because like again you don't exactly understand what exactly. So like words like restrictive or like um, even challenging or something. Like these are a bit more specific into what it is. So like what is your take on that?
You mean like for any particular feature or anything? Where is this
Yeah,
good or
yeah.
bad coming
So
in?
like if I'm reviewing a mechanic or something in a game, like the jumping feels a bit restrictive, or like the level design, it's very clunky, it's very claustrophobic. Like very close by. So like just saying good or bad in these situations may not necessarily give you the best opinion.
Okay, so if you're asking, I mean, time is already up, but if you're asking that, someone is playing your levels and they told you whether it is good or bad, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So in that particular case, definitely take his value, I mean, takes his feedbacks, but definitely you make sure you are testing out with many other people as well. And
Right.
then, only then, finally decide whether it is good or not. Don't take
Okay.
any one single person's feedback and make changes to it.
Okay.
Cool. Done. Thank you so much, guys. In case if you guys have any more questions, I'll be over here roaming around aimlessly. So, just feel free to connect. There is a LinkedIn and stuff. Just take a picture or stuff, Tata, bye-bye. Thank you so much.